All right, Kevin back with you for another episode of the $1 Million Relationships Podcast. And today I'm here with Mitch McDermott. Mitch, welcome. So awesome to have you on the show today.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks again for having me, Kevin.
Oh, you bet. I got to tell you, you reached out to me a while back and we got to have a conversation and get to know each other a little bit. And I'm like, Mitch, I'm like, man, you are the perfect kind of person to interview for this podcast and stuff. And here we are today. And I'm looking forward to this. We're going to have a great conversation today. And I'll just start by asking, a really simple and easy question to start with, Mitch. What do you do and who do you serve?
Yeah, great question. I do recruiting. So
Okay.
specifically, I started my company to bridge a gap in the industry between how executive recruiting is done at the C level
Okay.
and how recruiting is done everything beneath it. I saw two models that were very different, and I created our business as somewhat of a hybrid offering, creating a new category in the recruitment sector.
Okay.
Um, Most of who we serve are CEOs, head of talent, senior level leaders in organizations that are looking to bring in key mid-level folks to
Okay.
drive some type of impact in the company. Less of putting a butt in a chair, but key strategic hires at the manager, director, VP level that are going to drive the business forward and help drive initiatives forward.
Okay. Okay. So, what inspires you most about the work you get to do and the impact you get to make, Mitch?
Disrupting our industry.
Okay.
I love recruiting. I really love it. My dad has a top 25 retained executive search firm. They do just C-level.
Okay.
I got out of college, I got into contingent recruiting, which is very, very different. You're only being paid for your time, or you're
Okay.
only being paid for results, whereas retained search, you're being paid for your time. I didn't love contingent recruiting. It
Okay.
was very high volume, very transactional. Because you only get paid for your time, it's all around KPIs and closing deals. And
Okay.
closing deals, you forget you're dealing with people, right? If it's not the right job for someone, you're incentivized to get them in the door so you can collect a paycheck, right? Send out an invoice. It didn't align with my values. I was always entrepreneurial and I didn't want to work for my dad because I wanted to have my own thing. So I never really was interested in getting into that business because I'd either have to work for him or compete with him, neither of which sounded that exciting. So
Okay.
for me, it's really about changing our industry, changing the way companies think about hiring. That's what really drives me, offering a different solution than what currently exists, and also helping reprogram leaders in viewing people and hiring to make sure that they're getting people who are going to make an impact and not just hire a fancy resume for someone who doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what are some of the things that you guys have done, Mitch, to disrupt the industry? And what are you guys doing that sets you guys apart, that makes you guys so unique and stuff?
Yeah, great question. Really, the whole firm, the way I built the company was with very much detail and intention to take the best aspects of executive search, the way that they recruit, having a consultative partnership to the customer, being incentivized by the right results, not just any. And then I've taken the speed of contingent recruiting, the quick delivery model, and also the price point, and melded those things together.
Okay.
Even the way we pay our people, like most of contingent search that I'd say we compete with, they call it full desk recruiting. So your recruiters are tasked with generating their own business and then placing searches. So you're never 100% dedicated to serving your clients. Half your
Okay.
time's focused on getting new clients. Our recruiting team just serves our customers. If you're a recruiter at my business, you're just working on executing and finding great people for our clients. You're not split between two different job titles.
Okay.
And even how we pay our people. I was in contingent and I was in a full commission role, and we get paid a percentage of salary. So to work on a search that was higher salary, I was more motivated
Sure.
because I'd make more money. If
Yeah.
I worked on lower searches, wasn't as motivated because it wasn't going to pay me the same for sometimes the same, if not more work.
Mhm.
I pay our people a spiff. It's a flat, and they make more the more they place. So I've removed a lot of internal bias from our culture that exists in a lot of our competition just by the nature of the systems and the way that they built
Uh-huh.
pay structures. So I've been very intentional with how I build our company how I incentivize and motivate my people to focus on quality and serving our clients and also treating candidates with respect, serving candidates to where the transactional norm of our business and our that you see in contingent search has kind of been removed.
Yeah. Wow. It's interesting. I'm the same way in my business. It's definitely not a transactional business. It's totally relational,
Yeah.
And being on the relational side, I'll tell you what, man, you serve the right people who place high value on relationships. Man, that's really something. It's, I
Absolutely.
mean,
Yeah, I agree. And it's also opened my eyes that not all people value relationships, even at
that's
the
right.
executive level. I've
Yeah.
had to learn that. I think I expected this was something everyone's looking for. And I think most people are, but I was surprised to find for some organizations, some leadership teams, they want a result. They want a button
Yeah.
to chair. It's less about the relational and intentional aspect of
Yeah.
how we work together.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, you know what? And you're absolutely right that, not just because somebody's an entrepreneur doesn't mean they place a high value on relationships and stuff.
Yeah.
And I have met people that do not.
Yeah.
And so, well, so what is a result? And you don't have to name names or anything
Yeah.
like that, but what's a result that you've helped a client get that you guys are just incredibly proud of, Mitch?
Yeah, there's one big one that comes to mind. It was a client that was hiring a kind of market sales leader
Okay.
for Arizona. So it was true mid-level, it wasn't executive. And the search had been open for like almost a year. They really struggled. We ended up finding this absolute rock star person. And within about 18 months, he actually was promoted to the head of sales for the entire company. And
Wow.
they operated nationwide. It was a big role, big promotion. And to me, that was made me really proud because I want to find game changers, right? And to me, that was the proof that we put someone in to manage a region that ultimately was the right hand to the CEO and owner of the business for a really a larger middle market company. And they end up having this life-changing career. It was a win for both sides, right? Like feeling the fulfillment of putting a candidate in a great place and then seeing the opportunities and the benefits that they had by taking that role. And on the contrary, seeing the change we made in the company of being able to find someone that essentially jumped two levels into the C level in
Yeah.
just 18 months because of what they brought to the table.
Wow. That's got to be incredibly gratifying right there,
Yes.
Mitch. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, congratulations on that.
Thank
Well,
you.
okay, so now that we've got a little bit of context set here, I want to switch gears just a little bit, and I want to start talking about the relationship side on this side of the conversation. So, have you ever been introduced to a person or persons who completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today would not be possible if not for this person or persons? And I'm just really excited to hear your story and your experience around this topic of relationships, Mitch.
Yeah, there's two big ones. One was actually my childhood best friend. And
Okay.
unfortunately, we're not as close as we used to be. He moved out of state, but we're still relatively close. But he was my best friend from what, 4 or 5 years old, basically through most of college.
Okay.
He changed my life in a way he probably doesn't even realize. Um, After my freshman year of college, my parents actually financially cut me off. I was going down a path that was not a great path. And they basically shared, hey, we love you, but we're not paying for you to basically ruin your life and put yourself in an environment with people who are probably going to ruin theirs. And I was tasked with, two choices: move into my parents' house and go to community college, which I really didn't want to do,
Mhm.
or move out and financially support myself. My best friend was a grade younger, so I was just finishing my freshman year. He had just finished senior year of high school, and he was going to move up to a community college in Central California that was like a feeder school for Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. So
Okay.
you get the college experience. You're not living at home, but you can go to community college, which was what I could financially support myself through at that time. And prior to this, I had worked at Starbucks. That was my job. I knew I wanted to do sales. I knew I wanted to have a big life and I wanted to make a lot of money one day. I also knew I'd probably have my own business because I had businesses growing up,
Mhm.
starting at like 11 years old of just little things I would do. Um, and his old neighbor was a regional leader for Mercedes-Benz, and I loved cars. And he did photography. So that guy connected him with an owner of a dealership in the place that he was moving to. And basically, I needed two things to move. I needed a way to pay for myself, I needed a job,
Mhm.
and I needed a place to live. So about 2 weeks before school started, he pitched me on the idea of like, why don't you just move up with me? We went up there. He got me a meeting with the owner of the dealership, who essentially almost hired me on the spot. That job
Wow.
changed the course of my life forever. I started out by basically telling the owner I would do anything he needed. I was kind of the utility player. I
Okay.
would go into work with a suit and I'd have a change of shorts and a tank top in the back. And if they needed me to wash cars, I'd wash cars. And once I
Mhm.
started selling cars, I didn't wash cars anymore. And I essentially had my whole college career was centered around cars and
Okay.
selling for Mercedes-Benz. And I ultimately transferred to San Diego State where I got my degree. And I drove down, I met the GM of the dealership there, and I was able to, it was not a transfer because they're all separately owned, but I was able to get a job through a big Penske dealer. So I had a big boy job through college. My peers were, in their 30s, 40s, 50s. These were career car salesmen. And that job taught me so much and it elevated me in so many ways that I don't think I would have been able to start my own business successfully at 25 had I not started in that environment at 19 years old. So in a lot of ways, that job I feel like put me 5 to 6 years ahead of my peers with experience that allowed me to take advantage of opportunities earlier in my career.
Yeah. Yeah. What was the first sale that you made there? I'm sure you remember that like it was yesterday.
I actually don't,
You
as you're
don't, huh?
asking.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I actually don't. I remember a few key sales. There's a
Okay.
few that I remember. One of them was the most expensive car in the showroom. It was
Okay.
they called it the S-Class Coupe. It was a convertible, white, black wheels, red interior, about 250 grand. It was like the most expensive car Mercedes made at the time.
Okay.
And I'll never forget this sale because it taught me a lesson about don't judge a book by its cover. But there was a gentleman in like a Hawaiian shirt and cargo shorts and flip-flops kind of looking around, and everyone looks at that car. It's in the middle of the showroom. It's beautiful. It's the most expensive thing on the lot. And nobody was going up to him. And I went over and I introduced myself, and I kid you not, 2 hours later, he's driving out in the car. And
Wow.
I wasn't expecting him to buy that car when I went up to him, but I just thought, we should be talking to customers and building those relationships and at least greeting people who are coming in. And everyone kind of ignored them because I think they told themselves a story like of who they envisioned walking in and buying that
Yeah.
car.
Yeah.
And that was the most expensive car I ever sold at Mercedes.
Wow.
And it
Very
was all
cool.
because of, again, just wanting to open a door, build a relationship,
Yeah.
not expecting he was going to drive out in that, but knowing that if he's here for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because I can tell you over the years, I mean, entrepreneurs in my world, they're running businesses anywhere from, oh, I don't know, maybe 500,000 on the low end on up to 750 million and everything in between. And I can tell you that I have met some very successful entrepreneurs that if you looked at them, you ran into them, you'd never know. You would not know at all,
Yeah.
because they're very unassuming. They don't want people knowing that they're wealthy or successful or what have you. And and yeah, don't ever judge a book by its cover.
Exactly.
And here's the other thing too is that you know what? It doesn't matter how successful somebody is or how big their business is or how great things look from the outside looking in. Every one of us we're just doing the best we can with what we got. And we're far more alike than we are different. And
Yeah.
so just treat people well.
I
It's
couldn't I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, I started my business at 25. I had huge imposter syndrome. And as I've connected and built my network with other entrepreneurs 10, 20, 30 years older than me, syndrome. This is something that never goes away. It's
Yeah.
just a part of putting yourself in elevated environments and
Yeah.
just not believing that you're meant to be there.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot in being around other entrepreneurs, being involved in groups with entrepreneurs to realize we're all the same. Kind of like what
Yeah.
you said, right? Some of these things are, more experience, bigger businesses, whatever you want to call it. We're all still learning. We're all still figuring stuff out.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, so and you mentioned to me before we hit the record button that there was another person that you wanted to honor too. So I just want to make sure and give you the
Yeah,
opportunity to do that.
yeah. I mean, this one I can say without a doubt, and it's my dad. It wasn't an introduction. I was fortunate enough to be born into that relationship.
Uh-huh.
But that man has completely changed my life and many others who are in my life that have met him through me. Uh, and he's an entrepreneur. And I think one of the big things he instilled in me and my family and my siblings was living a life without limits and getting rid of limiting beliefs, looking at the world from a lens of how things can get done, maybe the one out of the 100 ways it could happen, instead of the 99 ways it wouldn't. And that way of thinking has completely shifted how I view the world, how I view everything. And also, he's been a very successful businessman in his life, and he's helped me. He's made introductions that have completely changed my life, that have opened up doors I could have never imagined, like moving to Sydney, Australia for a year after college, working in the search business. That's where I got my teeth wet in this industry right out of
Okay.
school. A lot of different doors have opened because of the relationships he's built.
Yeah.
And the belief system I think he instilled in me.
Yeah. Wow. So what is an example of a situation where you personally, Mitch, got to make a really substantial impact and maybe even in the moment, maybe it even surprised you a little bit, but you also know that would have never been possible if not for your relationship with either your dad or your friend that you grew up with. What's an example of something like that?
Yeah, it's probably easier to think of an example from my dad. And I
Okay.
have a good one, and this is somewhat recent. The job market is broken. And there's a lot of people on LinkedIn asking for help. And I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, so a lot of people will reach out, hey, I'm out of work. Can you help me? There's
Okay.
a misconception that recruiters find people jobs. Companies hire us to find people for their jobs, but it's not necessarily helping people out of work find a role. That's kind of the opposite of what we do. Uh, and I came up with the idea of starting a platform to help those in search find a job through disruptive strategies, knowing that the way you applied for a job 5 years ago no longer works. I knew it would be impactful. I was very purpose driven with this. I didn't realize how impactful it would be. So I did one-on-one coaching, I did group, I did it paid for a reasonable price because I knew if I gave them the tools without the accountability, they
Mhm.
might do nothing with it.
Mhm.
And I've helped people in the past by giving them, free advice, let's call it.
Okay.
Happily, happily. And then every month they're asking me, do you have any jobs? And I'm like, I gave you the tools to do this. So I wanted it, if I'm going to do this, I want them to have skin in the game. I built a 6-week program. It wasn't just a 30-minute call where I give them pointers and advice. And we went through it and I was blown away how much of that task for me was almost like mindset coaching. It
Okay.
wasn't just giving them the tactics and frameworks to go use to go get in front of companies and open up doors for themselves to get a job. It was almost rewiring their internal beliefs and stories to even get to that stage where they're in a place to take action. And it opened my eyes to why so many of the people I gave advice to didn't do anything with it.
Mhm.
You have to believe to receive. And that was something where I feel like I was able to make a lot of impact. I mean, we had people who have been out of work for 7, 8, 9 months, getting interviews with companies like Toyota and middle management within a matter of a week or two, using
Wow.
the framework, kind of going through that mindset refresh.
Mhm.
But yeah, that definitely surprised me. I didn't expect to almost be more like a mindset coach. I envisioned it being more career coaching and giving kind of proven strategies and tactics.
Yeah.
And it turned into be something much deeper than I could have ever imagined. And the impact of that work was so much more fulfilling than I would have ever imagined, too, because you're not just giving people tools and seeing a result. You're seeing the evolution of someone over 6 weeks and how they think, how they communicate,
Yeah.
how they're viewing the position they're in and the opportunities around them.
Yeah. And when you make change like that, when you affect change like that, that's long term, you know.
Yeah,
That's the kind of stuff that will ride with that person for the rest of their lives and benefit them and the people that they come into contact with too, you know. And
totally.
that's pretty exciting when you start seeing that stuff. It's
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It brought a lot more fulfillment than I could ever imagine.
yeah, yeah. Well, Mitch, for anybody that may be listening to this and thinking, man, Kevin, I really like Mitch. I like who he is. I like how he shows up. And man, this guy, maybe he can help us. Or maybe they're thinking of somebody else, that they're thinking like maybe he can help my friend or what have you. Any resources, any websites we can share with folks?
Yeah, absolutely. Our company website has a lot of good information. It's talentascension.com.
Okay.
I always tell people though, reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
It's just Mitch McDermott. I put a lot of content out there. I want to give away value and kind of my internal playbook as a search firm leader and conductor of hundreds of searches for companies on how to hire the right people, how to approach a job search in today's modern world flooded with technology. So I would always say reach out on LinkedIn, would love to connect. And also, some of the things I'm posting about might resonate with the challenge you're facing currently.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Is there any last thing that you feel led to share, Mitch, before we call it a wrap?
Yeah, one last thing. We're in an interesting place right now, and I see it on the front lines. The value of relationships, something like you and I talked about, it's something we need to protect. And
Yeah.
I even see it in the hiring process. Hiring's lost humanity. I see it in sales. Even sales has lost humanity. Things have become so easy with AI and technology. I see a loss in human to human connection. I do believe in the next few years it'll bounce back and we'll have a little bit of a, I guess, normalization because I think, but it's something I thought I'd share because I see it a lot on the front lines in hiring. And I think for companies, for leaders who are looking at bringing people in, like technology is a great tool, but we hire people, we work with people,
Yeah.
right? We partner with individuals at companies, and to not lose sight of the human to human connection.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because, Mitch, I see the same exact thing because I talk with entrepreneurs every single day. And, and I've seen with our whole, tech world and with AI and we've kind of got into this trust recession, you know.
Hmm.
And sometimes it's challenging to tell what's real and what's not. And you
Yeah.
know what, that's only going to become more prevalent as we keep moving forward and AI continues to advance. And what I can tell you is entrepreneurs, they are looking for real meaningful connection with real people, like-minded people that they can just have a real and meaningful kind of relationship with, and this is going to keep becoming more and more valuable for folks, and it's kind of a big fat hairy deal, really.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, yeah. And so, well, I'll tell you, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation today and just share it from your heart of some stuff that you're seeing, and I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you, and I'm excited to get this out there and share it with folks. So thanks so much, Mitch.
Yeah, me too. Thank you again, Kevin. Always enjoy our conversations.
You bet.